Yo, what's up guys, welcome back to another video. This is a reaction to British versus American memes, my honest reaction. Firstly, apologies for not posting. I've had a lot of issues with my computer, and from Monday to Wednesday I've been very busy, although I posted on Monday or Tuesday. But then the end of the week I was supposed to post both days, but my computer's been bugging out, so I've not been able to do so, and I think I've managed to fix it. But now I am at a very crucial time in my course, so finding time to consistently post will be hard. I will still try and post as much as possible, but yeah, it will depend on what time I can find myself, etc. But yeah, we've got 3 reactions coming today. Also, I did get a video blocked, which I then was able to repost, but I just cut out the part that was blocked, and it was ridiculous. I got a strike for something so silly, and it wasn't even from my reaction, and it was nothing even bad at all. Just mental. But yeah, doesn't matter. We're back with more reactions. Hopefully you're all doing well. And let's see some of these memes. I mean, I feel like British and American people love to like take digs at each other, whether it's British people's teeth or Americans eating burgers or, you know, accents, this and that. It's always good fun. Sometimes it gets a bit over the top, but again, that's all part of the fun. I mean, I don't really care at the end of the day. It's all just jokes to me. But yeah, we're going to check this out. We're going to see Lawrence's reaction to this sort of stuff, and let's just jump into this video.
The algorithm is a funny thing. Because I'm a citizen of both Britain and the United States, because I have a YouTube channel devoted to that fact, I often find while scrolling through one of the social medias that I get pushed memes from the perspective of one country poking fun at the other. And so today we're going to look at those memes, and I'm going to give you my honest, unfiltered opinion on whether or not they're accurate. And if you're thinking, who the hell is this guy, and you haven't yet subscribe to my channel, do that now.
You better not be like,
in the meantime,
British people do have bad teeth. I mean, maybe in terms of percentages we have worse teeth overall, but it's not everyone, you know. You can't take everyone as a result of maybe a bad few, you know. The people that you'll see on TV shows with crooked teeth and stuff.
Let's take a look at some British and American internet memes. Aha, yeah, I get pushed this one quite a lot, probably because
this is a common
spend a lot
phrase.
of time
I
on
feel
this
like
channel talking about the vast size of the United States
this is a bit
and
different.
the many regional accents of Britain. So, as you can see, you drive for 4 hours and are still in the same part of the country in the United States, whereas in Britain, you drive for 2 hours, the local accent has changed twice, and bread rolls have a new name. Actually,
I'm just thinking, what is the phrase that I'm thinking of? 100 miles in the UK? No. 100... Wait. 100 miles in the UK is a long distance. 100 years in the US is a long time. I don't know. It's something like that. Which is... I think I've just butchered it, to be honest, but... It kind of reminds me of this saying, although that's not really a meme, that's just a saying.
Actually, I have an anecdote about this. When I lived in Britain, I grew up in a town called Grimsby. And there, if you order chips, or fries as they're known to Americans, on a bun, which is a real thing in Britain, it's known there as a chip botty. But then I moved the relatively short distance to the west coast of England, ordered the exact same thing, and they looked at me like I was an idiot, which they had a point, because there it was known as a chip bun. However, this sort of comparison would suggest that similar things don't happen in America, but in fact they do. I mean, think about the fact that here in Chicago we would refer to that public thing where water comes out that you drink as a water fountain or a drinking fountain, but just a few miles north of me in Wisconsin they call it a bubbler. So these things I think are universal from country to country. I don't know that it's necessarily just a British thing. And then the idea that you drive for 4 hours and are still in the same part of the country, I think that depends where in the country you are. If you're on the East Coast, you could drive for 4 hours and actually go through multiple states, both geographical states and mental ones. So is this meme accurate? I think it's 6 out of 10 for accuracy. All right, we got the Drake meme, and in this case, it's
I guess this is like Americans just going all out for Halloween, right?
obviously suggesting that Halloween in the UK, not good. Don't do it. Halloween in the US, amazing. Everyone should do it. I've done both. I obviously grew up in Britain as a child, so I experienced Halloween a lot. In the US, I've experienced it more from the point of view of a homeowner who opens the door to trick-or-treaters, and I've enjoyed both. One thing I will say, Halloween in the UK, while you are sort of restricted to dressing up as monsters as opposed to anything, trick-or-treaters get money in the UK. So I think if Drake knew that, he wouldn't have this opinion, and I've just just realised
Maybe
Drake's
I
Canadian.
can't remember getting
so
money.
Why does he
Maybe
even
very
care?
rarely.
If I were to do this, I think I'd make the Drake meme a bit different, and it would be equal parts joy. As somebody who's lived in more than one country, I've had my fair share of awkward border crossings. But do you know what's even worse than being patted down by a TSA agent?
Go on, baby.
Borders online.
Get that money.
Description below. All right, I've seen this one a few times. When you find out Americans microwave water to make tea, and you've got the redcoat laughing in British. This is an interesting one to me because, you know, I always read that Americans do this, but I've not yet experienced it. We have a kettle here in our house. That could be because of my influence, but I think it's not. I think my wife likes kettles. And as I talked about recently, electric kettles are not completely absent from this country. In fact, they were invented here. But when Americans do have kettles, it's usually a stovetop thing that you put on the oven and heat up that way. If you are American, you are watching this and you think to yourself, "Ooh, Lawrence, I microwave my water," let me know in the comments below and be ready for the British replies. So apparently people's tweets count as memes. English and Americans arguing over their disgusting food tastes, and it's one and the same. Okay, so I obviously grew up in Britain, have an affinity with the food over there, so I miss Yorkshire puddings, sausage rolls, spotted dick. It's real. And yet, you know, I often hear Americans and people from other parts of the world refer to British food as bland. Bland? What are we have you seen beans on toast? You can call that many things, but it's not bland. To me, British food it's my childhood. Not that you'd know it, because sadly the only food-related photo I have from then is this one, taken at the Grimsby McDonald's in November 1987. Can't separate that feeling from it. I don't feel the same way that apparently the rest of the world does. But apparently, according to Jesse on Twitter, the same is true of American food, and I've come to find that that's a falsehood as well. You know, American food is not just hamburgers and hot dogs, it's also tater tots. But there's a lot of other really good regional food. Just this year I've tried gumbo for the first time. Soon I'll be trying Maryland crab cakes. And I think if I were to make this very same Spider-Man meme, I would change it to English and Americans saying, "Ooh, you have lovely food."
Never gonna happen.
Wouldn't work as well with most audiences
Never
because it
gonna
wouldn't
happen.
dig a preconceived notion that our food is terrible. I don't believe in either case that it is. This is one that I've seen going around the internet. It's obviously choose your language.
Traditional and simplified. Oh, god damn.
Whenever you're on a website, and the suggestion here is that English with the British flag is traditional English, and that the English with an American flag is the simplified version. So funny. But I think that American English, while it definitely through spelling reform and Noah Webster did seek to simplify some of the spellings, I would argue that it isn't always a simplified version of British English. Firstly, you have an absolute plethora of homophones in this country, which can occasionally cause confusion. What's a homophone, Lawrence? It's when you have two or more words that are spelled differently from each other but share the exact same sound. So pin and pen, for example. I pronounce the vowel sound in those words completely differently.
Pin,
Americans very often don't, depending on their region. And so this causes confusion when talking to my wife. Like, I often have to clarify with her. Did you mean the word riding, as in riding a bike, or writing, as in writing a letter to the Queen? And it's always...
Oh, so in America, I guess you don't pronounce... Well, riding. How do you even mix that up? Riding. I guess, yeah, how Americans will say it. They just don't pronounce the T in writing. That's actually really fascinating.
The last one. That said, of course, we have homophones in Britain. They're just completely different, and I think by now I'm not as confused by them because I grew up with them. There is another meme, I think, out there as well where English is represented only by an American flag, and it's got a picture of British people crying about this fact. It's a tough one because obviously we like to think, "Ooh, we invented English," which isn't true, really, because it's a combination of, you know, Germanic and French and many other contributions. To be fair, it was us that took English to America. So if you've got a problem with English being represented by an American flag, maybe blame ourselves because we put it there. And this one, without...
And also, this is not even England, this is Britain, or the UK, so like... No, sorry, Britain, Great Britain. So with that, what can you really say? I mean, English isn't... I mean, Scottish people speak English, but Scottish or Welsh people speak English, but also speak Welsh. I don't think Scottish people have a Scottish language, do they? But yeah, you're using a British flag for England, so have your issues with that as well.
Maybe blame ourselves because we put it there. And this one, without fail, I get sent this
Happy
every
Treason
4th
Day.
of July by an American subscriber or two. Or can I say, Happy Treason Day, ungrateful colonials. It's from a British point of view saying, have your fun, but you kicked us out without any gratitude. Didn't even say thank you for bringing British culture and oppression to America. Obviously, it's poking fun. It's being jovial. We get that. The thing is, it's not something that we dwell on in school for reasons that might be obvious, but one of those reasons is that we had our fingers in a lot of pies back in the day in a colonial sense. And so to us, I suppose our colonial efforts in America, unsuccessful as they were, perhaps isn't quite as meaningful to us as it is to Americans themselves, which is understandable. It's their country. So I think that a lot of people in Britain maybe wouldn't even understand this meme. And it certainly wouldn't be...
I don't care about this whole situation, but I do find it quite cool that just Britain had such a big hand to play in a country now that is just the most powerful country, like how it just sort of unfolded, you know. It's just mad to think that 250 years ago it was so different. And now we're at the point that we're at now, where the country that we basically, not birthed, but I guess you kind of could say, with a mixture of, I guess, Spain and France involved here and there, became the country that it is now.
A prevalent sentiment that we all hold. In fact, more than that, 4th of July celebrations have actually started popping up in various parts of Britain, usually to cater to American tourists or Americans that might be staying in Britain. So I take this in the light-hearted manner that it's intended and give it 3 out of 10. And finally, because I talk about British and American English a lot on this channel and make various comparisons between the two varieties, I very often get sent this meme, and it always includes an image of the Queen, as if she herself said this, but the phrase here obviously is, there is no such thing as American English, there is English, and there are mistakes. It's funny until you realise that what I said earlier is true, that American English is just really an evolution of the English that we brought over, and it's an evolution that happened in isolation to some degree. So things that happen here didn't occur in British English, but the same is true in British.
That's fair enough, and I don't actually care about them being different versions of English. It doesn't bother me at all. I don't know if many people actually care. There probably are some people that genuinely are pissed off by the fact that that's the case. But for example, in like Mexico, do they have Mexican Spanish, or is it just Spanish? Like, is there differentiations between their Spanish and Spanish spoken in Spain? I assume there are some differences, but yeah, I think when it comes to English, American English is what is more or less taught in like schools around other countries, isn't it? Which is really interesting how that became the case, but maybe it's because of like TV and media and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, I guess American English is now the more commonly spoke English. I mean, firstly, because America's bigger than England, so there's more people, but then throughout the world as well. But I don't know fully if that's 100% true when being taught in different countries, although I'm pretty sure it is.
British English. And so that's why I always talk about memos on this channel. Memos often got lost in the pond when these varieties of English were emerging and developing and changing. And so again, it's quite a funny but inward-looking way of thinking about varieties of English around the world. You should note that British people don't tend to have any kind of issue with, for example, Canadian English or Australian English. Always American English, because America's the top dog in the world. To me, it feels like an attempt to just bring America down a peg or two.
I'll be honest, I feel like American English and Canadian English, from what I know, is pretty much the same. I don't know though, I don't fully know, but I feel like based off what I would sort of preconceive, like my idea of it, they'd be pretty much the same.
And also, you know, American English is very visible to us in Britain. It's on TV, it's on film, and so we are very aware of the mistakes that are made in American English. I don't consider them mistakes, as you well know. I actually look into some of the cases that British people might put forth as to why they are mistakes, but it very often turns out that these mistakes are in fact the result of British influence. It is a fascinating thing, and to suggest that there's no such thing as American English, I think think that it's very important when we're talking about these things to have terminology, because it becomes like a filing system. Think about when you're on your computer and you're setting up folders and things like that, and you have one giant folder, in this case English. You click into that, but you want to sort of categorize things in a way where you can refer to them in a specific way. So you'll have a folder for American English, British English, Australian English, Canadian English, and then you click into those folders. You go into the American English folder, you'll have Southern American English or Midwestern English. Click again, you'll arrive at Chicago Speak or UPA or Lawrence. It's all about categorization and just making it easier from a linguistic point of view to understand which variety you're studying. If you just simply called all of it English, that would make my job a lot harder. I can say that. So
Fair.
for me, this is the least accurate of all of the memes. I would give this a flat 0. Not
Damn, a 0 like that. I have an email signature I have an email signature line that I stole from somewhere online. I can't remember who might have originated this. People love it. It says, English doesn't borrow from other languages. English follows other languages down dark alleys, knocks them over the head, and goes through their pockets for loose grammar. I mean, I couldn't disagree, to be honest. In Appalachia, driving 2 hours will get you to a new accent and new vocabulary. My favourite US versus UK joke is losing £50, a celebration for an American and a nightmare for a Brit. That's a good one. I do like that one. The usual meme is the British conquered half the world for spices and refused to use them. Wow. Nah, we've got some spices now. Come on. It's not that bad, surely. I have a kettle at home for tea and coffee. At work, there is no kettle, but there is a coffee maker. If I want tea at work, I use a large Pyrex measuring cup and boil the water in the microwave to make tea. If it's not boiling, it doesn't touch my fresh tea bag. That's crazy. In an office, you don't have a kettle. Crazy. But yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed this reaction. Let me know your thoughts. And yeah, until next time, like, subscribe, and peace.